Guess who's back? No, not Jesus. I know Easter was yesterday, but it's our old friend, John Davis. Are you as excited as I am? Listen in for some fun times. Back in action, Tamara and John. Here we go. Hi, I'm Tamara's owner. Welcome to Spirit Cafe. Come in, sit down, and grab a cup of love. Welcome back to Spirit Cafe, John Davis.
Well, I am so excited to be with the Lady of Laughter, the Women of Whimsy, the Contessa de la Compassion once again. It makes me joyful and happy to see your smiling face, Tamara's owner. How are you?
Great, and I have really missed those intros.
all morning long, I was like, well, what was that again? I was like, I have to see Tamara. There's no way I can see Tamara without giving her titles.
I really appreciate that. That just made my whole heart like light up. I love
Oh, good. That makes me happy too. That's why I did it, just for you.
it. So they know, all the listeners know how I am. We want to know how you are, John Davis. What's going on in the world of John of New?
Things are amazingly great. Amazingly great. My John of New channel has exploded. I'm not. It's not huge, but I get 6,500, close to 6,500 subscribers now, and my Level Up Spirit channel has gotten 2,000 subscribers in a month, and I'm feeling really good about the work that I'm doing. I'm doing private sessions all day long, 4 days a week. We're still writing my book, which is taking forever. Um, but it's just because there's so much time, because I also have a membership group and just a lot of things going on. But I don't feel like I'm overworked. It's just so fun and enjoyable, and I feel like I'm doing good things in the world.
Aw, you are doing good things in the world. And see, I love this. And I hardly ever say this, but I get to with you. I told you so.
You did tell me so.
We started talking and you were first, before we even launched Spirit Cafe, and you were just not sure about how to reincorporate your own spirituality into your life and into your work. And I said some wise words to you about that, it'll take care of itself.
Right. The other thing you said, which I thought was like, all right, what are we doing? Let's get this done. And I was like, okay, Miss Tamara's owner. um, actually, I credit you for a lot of that, because I was very trepidatious about coming back to spiritual work, because I had come out and done a big spiritual work back in 1999 through the early 2000s, and was everywhere. I was speaking at the ARE, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, better known as the Edgar Cayce Foundation, in Houston and Portland and Virginia Beach, the main campus, and Unity churches everywhere. There was a book about me, but no one was hearing what I was teaching, and they were only hearing about the past life. And so I left the work. And so I was very much trepidation about coming back to the work, because of the fact that um, I felt like I became a crutch for people, and I can't become a crutch for someone if I'm empowering them. And so that's why I left the work. And so coming back was an emotional struggle for me. And then I interviewed this lady on my channel, a woman named Tamara Zoner, and she came on my other shortly lived podcast called The Interaction Hero, and got into a conversation with you, Tamara. And next thing you know, within days, we were like putting together a podcast, and it just exploded from there. But you were like, all right, tell me what's going on. Let's get this done. And I was like,
Do this thing. I'm nothing if not an action taker.
it's true. It's true.
I don't like to wait around for things to happen. I like to happen to things in life.
Well, and things only happen in your present moment.
Mhm.
And you could sit here in your present moment and think, I'm going to do this, but I am going to do this. It's not doing it. And
Right.
so That's why I jump right on things every time now, especially. That was the one thing I wouldn't jump to really fast.
Yeah, but
But
then
you,
once you get into action, once you get into motion, it's easier to stay there, right?
absolutely,
To keep
absolutely.
that
The thing is, the it's like we get into these moments of saying this is how life is, right? And a lot of people will say this is how life is, and they're just creating the same. And the way people like you and I work is like we know this is how life is, but now I'm doing this,
momentum.
and we shift into creator mode rather than stagnation mode.
Yes.
And to me, that's the super sauce of Tamara's owner.
And that's it. It's all about deciding what you want your life to look and feel like, and then taking action that makes that happen, that turns that dream or that idea into your reality. And the only way it's not possible is if you never get off your butt and do the things that move you closer to it. So, or even you can sit on your butt and do it too, John. Like you're doing it right on your butt.
Right. I'm sitting on my butt now, which is great.
Exactly. And
How
you are
awesome is
making
that?
life happen the way that you want it to happen. So I'm curious to know how how let's go back 2 years when this first began. What were you visualizing? What did you really want to create in your life, and how has that manifested? How have you manifested that now? So let's go back 2 years, and what were you thinking when you were thinking like, okay, well, I'm going to start stepping toward this. Here's what I want it to look like. And now here you are 2 years later. What does it look like? What are you living?
My goal was to be really a purpose, and to really, I my past life memories are very 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 visceral. Like I totally remember like physically being there, and the stuff that this guy back here, my buddy, right, sits on my shoulder like a parrot. um, um, my he the stuff he taught was so unlike what I got in my Catholicism that I really wanted that information to come out. And when I started using it in my own life, I really saw results with it. And so for me, I felt almost a responsibility to bring that out. And when 2 years ago, I had just done 7 or 8, maybe 9 years of corporate speaking, where I was delivering that message, but I was delivering it in a different vocabulary. So I wasn't feeling like my authentic self. And I really wanted to come back to just being who I was and my authentic self and putting myself out there. And so my goal when I wanted this thing was I was like, I'm just going to step out. Now you pushed me hard, and then Kim Carey pushed me hard too right after you. And it was like Kim Carey. I don't know if you remember it in the episode, which you guys go back and watch the Kim Carey episode.
Yeah, it's a good
Uh, um, yeah, make sure we get some watch hours on this. um, because Kim Carey is spectacular. But we got off the interview with her, and I found myself just blabbing my whole truth to her as well. And then she dragged me onto her channel, and just going onto her channel, I went from 0 subscribers and a brand new YouTube channel to 300 a day.
Mhm.
So it was just that kind of push. But the difference between 2 years ago and now is I just own it. I just there's no question. And here's one of the things. Here's one of the key elements that helped me own it was just saying I'm not expecting anybody to believe me. I'm not expecting anybody to change their views because of something I say. I'm just speaking my own truth and my own story, and in that regard, I'm just being me. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, I totally respect that. And just by putting myself out there wholly, I've gotten such amazing responses from people. I get I get messages every day that tell me they love me. I mean, every day, and and it's so empowering. And I hear people who have um, had the private sessions. I have one lady who she's sending me uh, the updates, and she's shrinking cancer in her body just by changing her beliefs. So now, 2 years later, I'm seeing all this amazing response to what he taught. And to me, it's like that's all I ever really wanted was to bring that out and to live in that sort of experience. So, and now on a less spiritual side and more on a John personal side, and my son's off in college. I'm looking at houses in Delaware, moving back to the beach, and things are transitioning just beautifully in the right direction for me.
That's so great. That's so good. I know the beach is where your heart is.
Oh,
So when you're doing this work, through your corporate years, you were covertly spreading this message. And now you're able to be more forthright and authentic. And in your channel, I mean, you're getting messages of love because in your channel, you are sharing messages of love. It's a
mm.
very loving message. And so, for people who maybe haven't listened to the first year of Spirit Cafe, in a nutshell, can you tell them who you were?
Sure.
And can
I'll,
you
I'll try to keep it short. I know I'm a verbose guy, but
be a good invitation for them to go back and watch tons of episodes and really get
yeah.
to know John Davis. But tell the people listening today who don't know you or don't remember the whole story because they haven't followed you, which is probably nonsense because they're all following you.
Not,
My
not.
fans are just
I
saying,
doubt that entirely because you've got a great uh, channel going on, and I'm just so excited to watch your episodes every week. So
oh,
yeah,
I'm so glad
good
you do.
job.
Feels
I
good.
do. I watch everyone, everyone.
And then, in a nutshell, what is the message that you're sharing?
It's a message of your own divinity. You have the power within you to achieve it and create anything. This guy said, "Greater works than I have done, you will do. It is your faith that heals you. You can ask a mountain to move, and it'll move. Nothing will be impossible for you. When you pray, believe you shall receive, and you shall." It really everything about what he taught was about, look, I figured something out, and you can do what I can do, and you come to your own divinity, your own power. And what I find he was most frustrated about was how simple it is, because people have a hard time realizing what that they create in every moment. And when when you look at your life and you go, okay, I'm hungry, and your stomach growls, I'm tired, and you yawn, you're actually declaring into your experience those things. But people will sit there and say, I'm struggling, I'm suffering, I'm hurting, and that's being created too. And so what he was teaching was create from a space of, being it in the moment. And that's the main gist of everything he talked about. He never declared himself the son of God. He called himself the son of man, which is like you and me. Where, we both had fathers, right? I assume, right? And so, he was just saying he's one of us, and he figured something out, and this is what I figured out.
I love that. That's a really beautiful message. I'm listening to a book called The Mutant's Message from Down Under.
Hmm.
And the Aboriginals, this particular tribe calls the white people mutants. And it's all about she's on this journey with them, traveling on foot, like barefoot, through the outback, learning how to tap back in to essentially truth,
Hmm.
right? Without the construct of civilization and man, but with a direct connection
Right,
to source.
right.
Yeah.
And that is really the key, is you have a direct connection to source. When I used to study meditation, I studied all the different forms of meditation. Now I don't even like to use the word because there's too many forms. It's too convoluted. So now I just sit in love. I just sit down and I exhale, and, and the goosebumps rise. I don't know if you can see that or not. Goosebumps rise, right? And it doesn't. I should flex it anyway. The goosebumps rise, and I just sit in that feeling. And next thing you know, 40 minutes has gone by, and and I understand that when I exhale, I'm releasing all my fears and my anxieties, and I'm coming back to the pure essence of love, which is God is love, right? So it's a matter of coming back to that space of realizing that not only are you divine, but you are always connected. And the the terminology I like to use now is, you are the inspiration and God is the paint, the paintbrush, and the canvas, and together you create a painting.
Hmm.
And so it's literally all the substance of you of that is created around you starts with your belief and is given to you with the source of all, or as we like to call it, the yada yada.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
does that
Yeah.
make sense?
That makes so much sense to me. Does it make sense to you, listening people and viewers? Tell us in the comments,
Yes, tell us that right below.
right? Right in the comments. Tell us something. Tell us something good. It makes so much sense. And 'cause I often talk about we're co-creators, right? There's source, yada yada, and there's us, and we work together. You know,
Right.
you can't just sit back and expect all the things we think about to happen. We have to actually take part in it. You can't just think I'd like to create a new YouTube channel. Could you handle that, God?
Right, right, right.
You actually have to do something about it.
I,
And
good.
you go ahead.
When you get passionate about something you're doing like that, though, passion is love.
Mhm.
And when you get passionate about something like that, it doesn't in any way, shape, or form hinder you. It makes you even more. The John of Dew channel is just over a year and a half old. I'm coming up on my thousandth video soon.
Wow.
Okay, my thousandth video. And there were days when I was so excited about doing it. I made like 4 videos and put them out the same day. Now I'm putting out one a day, and it's still just it's. I still am so excited about it. And when you put love into something, it gives you love in return. Um, I was working with a woman who was agoraphobic, and she said, "John, well, I took her. She's agoraphobic. She would never leave her house, so I would go pick her up and take her out to lunch." And she says, "John, why do the cars merge easily with you on the highway?" I said, "Because I love driving. Driving gives me love in return." And that's the simplicity of life. If you love what you're doing, it will give you love in return. It's a matter of use. And Swami Narayan, you know, the lion didn't eat him. They said, "Why didn't the lion eat you?" He said, "Because I'm without fear. He gave me nothing to be fearful for."
Hmm.
And so it's a matter of what you are sowing, you are reaping. Karma is instant. And so you sit in that moment, and what you're putting out, you're creating and kind of getting back to you. And that to me is one of the most beautiful things about this, is because you get instant response. So you know exactly what's happening, which means you can make a new choice at any given moment and change the direction and create something new.
I love that so much. There's so much presence in that statement. And when we're doing what we love and we're getting love back, it creates this flow state that almost takes us out of time.
Hmm.
I'm sure you've noticed is where you're doing something, you're really engaged and you really love it, and it just feels like such flow. And suddenly you're thinking, man, hours must have passed, and it's been maybe 20 minutes.
Right, right. And then there are the times where you've like worked and worked and worked and worked. You've done all this stuff, and you look at it, and it's like 4 in the morning. You're like, God, I'm not even tired, because time doesn't really matter. It's like, if you really think about time anyway, time is a linear construct that was made up by two farmers in a field who said, "Hey, look, the sun's going over. Let's call that a day." Right, right. Oh, look, it's straight up. Let's call that noon. And let's say break up this linear time thing. But we don't travel through time. Time travels through us.
Mm,
If you think about it, your past is just a collection of present moment memories, and your future is just a place where you set goals for your next present moment. But you never get to the future.
right.
You will experience everything in the present moment. And so, what you are thinking, doing, and saying in the present moment is coming into focus from your future, and it's coming into your experience. One of the things I see people do is they sit, once again, they go, "This is how things are. In the future, I'm going to do this." And they're they're literally saying, "I don't have it."
Hmm.
And it's not in the present. It's over there somewhere.
Hmm.
And and when they shift it into, "No, I am doing this," then everything starts to happen in their life. But until they get very, very present. And I like to use the This is your past. This is your future. This is your present. And this is a church. And this is never coming. Sorry. But if you know, here's your past. Here's your future. This is your present. So this is the hands praying, right? Think
Mhm.
about it that way. I'm coming to here. I'm
Yeah.
coming to here and now. And once you stay in the here and now and you positively create, your life is amazing.
Mhm. Oh, it's so nice to talk to you. I've missed you.
I've missed you too, Tamara Zona. You were always my favorite moment of the week to hang out with Tamara. But our lives are expanding in such beautiful ways.
I know, it's so beautiful. It's so much fun. So tell me, I mean, since this episode is being released on Easter, and that was a very purposeful decision. I said, John, we gotta talk. I want this to come out on Easter. I want this to be Easter Monday.
Easter Monday, right? And we're recording this on Good Friday.
And it is a Good Friday with my good friend John Davis. Uh,
Absolutely. Today is a Good Friday.
it is a Good Friday. So tell us, like, okay, so this week I've talked about Easter in a community that's primarily Jewish. And so we also talked about Passover, and we were talking about the different beliefs, like what they're celebrating coming out of slavery, freedom, and what we're celebrating as Christians. I mean, I'm a recovered Catholic, as you know, or recovering. So I'm not celebrating uh what my mom is, for instance.
Right.
But we're coming together with family, and there's
Yeah.
Easter things around, and I love bunnies and spring and the pagan aspects of
Mm.
Easter as well. So, John, what
Yes, ma'am.
what's right? What
Oh,
what's right this
I
weekend?
love I love let's actually back up a little bit if you don't mind.
I
Let's
don't
back
mind.
up to Palm Sunday
Okay.
because that's the beginning of last week, right? So Palm Sunday, Judaic prophecy says that um, the Messiah will arrive on the back of a donkey, right? So um, my memory of this guy, he didn't believe in messiahs or saviors or Christs. And so when you look at the Bible historically, the original books of the Bible were written by Judaic sects who were trying to prove Judaic law and Judaic prophecy. And so I firmly believe the Palm Sunday story is actually pushed into the Bible to fulfill a prophecy.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily think it's a true story. Not that I have a memory of it one way or another. But when I read the Bible, I find that to be something very interesting. Even when you read the Sermon on the Mount, the first part is this beautiful thing about blessed are the blessed are the blessed are, and then suddenly saying fulfill the law, fulfill the law, fulfill the law, right? So it's really strange. It's like a schizophrenic speech. Um, so Palm Sunday, that to me looks like them pushing Judaic law. Good Friday. The question I have to ask about Good Friday is who was it good for? Because it wasn't good for Joshua, and
No.
it, and it, and it damn sure wasn't good for me. Because in my regression, you hear me screaming at watching him being crucified. So what was the goodness of that day, right? And so to me, that really is a day of great pain and suffering. He suffered, died, and was buried. Um,
Wasn't that
so
what is the good thing is that he died for our sins?
yes, yes, exactly, and that's the interesting thing. The Christianity has made that out to be the deity has come here and died for our sins, and this is also the moment. This is the moment where all of the guilt in Christianity comes from. This is the moment where we killed the Savior, and this is the moment where you're born in original sin because you're part of that belief, right? You are just wrong for doing it. This is where all the fear-based dogmas of
Mhm.
Christianity come from. This exact moment, Good Friday. But I like to think of him for his life, not for the suffering at the end, right? Because everything he taught was before that.
Mhm.
And when you really think about it historically, um, and you read the Bible, you'll find that he wasn't following Judaic law because he breaks it over and over again in the Bible. Um, he definitely was not. Um, he was definitely a threat to Rome because he was getting huge numbers of followers, and they just saw him as a threat that could raise an army and attack Rome. And so he had the two ruling authorities against him. And so, of course, he was going to end up on a cross, or he was going to end up being killed in some form in that time period. So the day of Good Friday to me really comes down to remember him for who he was, not for the suffering on the cross. I can't even listen to my regression without weeping because the moment is so painful. And that was good. That was the Good Friday. Then we get to Easter, the biggie. you know, in in Roman and in Greek, the word is Pascha, and Pascha is it means Easter, and it's the day set aside to celebrate. The word Easter comes from Iastre, which is the Anglo-Saxon goddess of the fertility and spring.
Mm.
So the whole thing is based around the harvest period, the time of the year where pagans celebrated the harvest,
Well, the
basically.
birth. We're celebrating the birth of finally the earth is coming back in, and we can plant the seeds, and
Yeah,
yeah, and the soil is fertile, and here we're going to have new life.
precisely, precisely. And so when the Council of Nicaea started placing holidays, they placed this holiday right next to that celebration because they were trying to transition pagans over to Christianity. And
Right.
so the day of Easter is interesting. But now, what does Easter celebrate? Easter celebrates the resurrection. And you know, when you look at the Bible and you look at everything he said, and what I remember too was that he was saying he's just like us, right? And I have one memory of him after, well, technically two memories of him after the crucifixion. I have one memory of three of us carrying his body, and I have one memory of weeks later in Galilee, him showing up and me dropping on my face and him laughing at me for doing it. um, but that's the last memory I have of him. So do I believe he came back from that? Yeah, I do. But when I studied in India, I met guru after guru who would tell you that they could project their consciousness and manifest their body. And
Mm,
so, which is the same thing as a resurrection, if you really think about it. And when you go to India, you learn very quickly about Sri Isa, who is, they believe, Jeshua when he was traveling through India before he came back to Jerusalem.
okay.
And so the studies in India he could have learned those techniques, you know.
Hmm.
And so to me, I look at the Easter day as he was once again showing us our divinity by what he had done. And modern Christianity has turned it into this is proof that he was the Son of God and better than all of us.
And
And
he's really saying, here, look what you can do.
look what you can do. Greater works than I have done, you will do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so amazing. And so do I. I don't really celebrate Easter, right? I love the chocolate though. Chocolate bunnies are great. And what is it? What are they called? The yellow birds, marshmallow,
Oh yeah, those.
peeps. I love peeps. Right, right. Especially when you take a peep and you drop it into hot chocolate. So good. Anyway.
Oh, the other people think you got to open them up and let them go stale, and then they're good.
That can be good too. Yeah, absolutely. So to me, Easter is an amazing time, and I of course am inundated with pictures and images that people send me and tell me stuff, and I always say, remember him for his life, not his death,
Hmm.
because his life was showing you how powerful you are and your own divinity.
And isn't that what, like, that's what I want? I want people to remember my life when I'm
Yeah,
gone. We want to remember the good parts of people's life, the vibrancy of life, what they taught us, the beautiful memories of life, not the death.
right. And what's really interesting is if you're grieving someone in your life, not taking him out of the picture, just anybody, you're grieving someone in your life. Would they want you to grieve? Would they want you to express who you really are and the person that they love through their entire life? They would want that for you to be joyful and loving and caring, right? For the same token, when you think of them who've crossed over, if you're grieving, once again, this is their life. You're focusing on this part at the end,
Mhm.
right? But this, if you focus on this and you continue to focus on this, you'll carry that forward.
Yes.
Come back to laughing about the things you did with them and enjoying the time. Here's the other thing, and I think Tamara and I agree on this one, is that you're the one who's away. They're the ones that are still around you all the time, right?
Yes.
Um, this
Yes.
beautiful lady right here, my mom,
Mhm.
right? My mom, I'm writing in my book, and I literally feel her presence and hear her laugh as I write things, and I'm like, well, that's just cool. Mom's right there,
I love
So,
that so much. And I feel the same way. I've often talked about my grandmother, who I actually felt closer to after
mm,
her death, because then there was not the separation across physical lands and
right,
oceans.
right,
We're just, and I grew up next to her, so we had a close relationship. But once she passed, she's always with me,
right,
always with
right.
me.
Oh, and my son, who lost all his spiritual gifts when his hormones kicked in. um, but when he was very young. I mean, I think he was probably, oh my gosh, he must have been 6 or 7. We're walking into the house, and I hear behind me, "Daddy, I'm touching Grandpa." And I turned around, his hands out to the side. I'm like, "What do you mean you're touching Grandpa?" He says, "Well, when Grandpa died, he became energy, and we're all energy, so I'm touching Grandpa." He said, "I'm touching you too, Daddy." I said, "What do you mean you're touching me?" He says, "Well, I'm energy, and the floor's energy, and your feet are energy, and you're energy, so we're touching each other." And I'm like, I'm like my little Yoda,
Isn't
right?
that beautiful? Before life and hormones covers up
Yeah.
true wisdom.
Yeah. The other thing he said that I like to, it's my favorite quote of his. He said, "Daddy, God told me he's in everything and everyone, and we control the God part inside of us."
Wow.
And that to me is huge because it's showing you your divinity. It's showing you who you are. And it came from the mouth of a 6-year-old, after singing There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly.
Favorite, favorite
great,
one of mine.
great song, right?
Oh, such a
But
good song.
yeah, so it really comes down, it's one of those truths that's just there. And what happens is we come into this world and we're given all these beliefs and all these experiences, and we start to suffer through them, right?
Mm,
And the Bible says, "Ye must become as a child to enter the kingdom of heaven." You must go back to that place before those experiences, before those beliefs are thrust upon you. Ye must be born again, which means set down your past. And the Buddhist quote, "Life is suffering," when it's translated correctly, is life is suffering because of our habitual response to our subconscious experience.
mm.
And so it literally is breaking the habits and dropping the beliefs, being born again.
Yeah,
you
and
know,
tapping back into, I was just talking to somebody about this, that childlike wonder and awe that is the true experience of life. When we can look at the chipmunk and think, not of how he's going to go eat my peppers, but instead of like how nimble and fun and adorable he is.
right, right. I was just saying to somebody yesterday, I said, children believe in Santa Claus. And when they stop believing in Santa Claus, they start pretending to be Santa Claus, right? They start saying, "I'm Santa Claus for my child now," right? But to them, it's real. And,
Yes.
and their experiences, it's real. And I went to a restaurant with a guy, and I think I've told you the story. I maybe even said it on Spirit Cafe. Went to a restaurant with a guy, and walking in, he says, "I hate this place. Why do we always come here?" I said, "What are you talking about? I love this place." And by the end of the meal, he had a completely crappy time, and I got a date. Right? With a waitress who came to our table and literally said, "I'm sorry, I'm having a bad day, and it's going to reflect in the service." And I was like, that's a work in my world, so I'm just going to love her until she's out of that. Right? And she was out of it in minutes. In minutes.
Oh,
'Cause-
that's because you put love into your experience with her and your friend did not. And
right.
we get what we ask for, really.
Always.
We get what we give and we get what we ask for. And it's just this holistic response, call and response. That's what
Yeah.
life is.
What you sow, you will reap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Oh, it's so good to talk to you and have you back. And I could I don't know, I could do this for like another year. But
Well, anytime you want me to come back, I'll gladly do it because I just love you to death, and I think you're just a spectacular uh, person, and I love what you're doing with Spirit Cafe because I think it's needed, and I think you're reaching the right people.
thank you. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy the conversations I'm having. And so for those of you who are listening and watching and you're like, I'm missing something, just start from the beginning. Start from the beginning, listen to the podcast all over again, and you'll get to have a lot of John time. And
And
then,
if you are really curious about my backstory
yes,
on the Spirit Cafe channel, there is a video called About John,
yes,
and you can learn the entire story there.
yeah. So go back and watch and listen. And then, John, tell them where they can find you if they want to just have more of you in their experience and maybe even book a reading. Who knows?
Well, if you're on YouTube, all you have to do is type in at like you're writing an email address at John of New, all one word, and you will find my YouTube channel, or at Level Up Spirit 444. That's my other channel. Either one of those will get you to me. The easiest way to find me is johnofnew.com. And what I like to do for every time I get interviewed on any channel, especially this one, and I'll give it to Spirit Cafe people anytime they want it. Um, I do $50 off my private sessions, and I'll make sure Tamara has the link to because it's a special link she has to
Yeah.
have. I'll make sure she has that to put in the description below. And uh, if you are curious what those readings are on the John of New channel, just type in the search box readings, and you'll find the video where I explain what exactly happens in one of those readings.
Well, awesome. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna book my reading.
Yeah. Well, you need to you need to contact me separately because you get special time.
Special treatment. All right, what's your parting message for the world, John, as we come off of this Easter holiday and we move into life? What do people need to know?
Jeshua said, "You're divine." Take this weekend and realize his message rather than uh, anything that disempowers you. You have the power within you to create anything in your life, create a joyful life, create a happy life. It's all a matter of you putting your thoughts, words, and deeds into your present moment with positive focus towards that outcome.
Sounds like a really, really loving plan. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for coming back and joining us again, John Davis. It has been a treat. Way better than a peep talking.
Well, I'm just joking. Always a pleasure, Tamara. I just laugh and smile every time I'm around you because, like I said, when you and I first met, there is a love inside you that brightens rooms and brightens the world, and now is brightening YouTube.
Hooray for lighting up YouTube.
There you go.
Life. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us on Spirit Cafe. Please leave all comments on our Spirit Cafe Facebook page or in the comments below our YouTube videos.